One of the things that the entire media reproduced uncritically, and this is now relevant to what's happening today in the country, was this idea that over 80% of grooming gang cases were Pakistani men. So what they mean by grooming gangs is they mean men over the age of 18 who are accused of working together in groups to persuade young women, in some cases underage, into sexual relationships with those groups of men. It's a form of sexual assault, a form of sexual crime. Now, this 80% figure, where did it come from? So I looked at the Quilliam report, and what I found truly should be illegal, what they did. It should be illegal, because they took around 150 cases over 12 years. We knew nothing about the methodology of how they selected these cases. And then from those cases, they extrapolated that 80% of those cases were Pakistani men. There is no legal designation of grooming gangs. It's not referred to in that way in court. So these people were found guilty of different things, right? I went to the Office of National Statistics and I looked up how many reports of sexual crime took place in England and Wales in 1 year. How many do you think it was?
Over 120.
600,000 in 1 year.
Jesus.
600,000 in 1 year.
Wow.
So Ahmed, let me ask you a question. Over 12 years, if we extrapolate that out, how many instances or reports of sexual assault, which are not instances because often they're not reported, would have taken place over those 12 years? You are talking about millions.
Millions.
The Quilliam Foundation chose around 100 to 150 to use for their investigation. The entire media reproduced that information verbatim. That headline was one of millions of headlines across these decades of lies about people like us. And so actually, when we consider quite how extraordinary the propaganda has been, because it hasn't only been the propaganda from Hollywood, which has, the CIA and the Department of Defense are intimately involved in the writing of scripts within Hollywood. So they have constantly tried to cultivate the bogeymen of the era, whether it's the Russians or whether it's the Arabs or the Vietnamese at one point, of the brutal other, the inhuman other. So that has already existed. But you have a media sphere that has been utterly cooperative in every single heinous lie about groups of people like us. It's actually a surprise you haven't had more violence here. You haven't had more bombings of mosques, because the psychological operation has been so fierce.